everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of Stop Who Does That Headline Highlights. On today's episode, we will be covering updates on the murders of Rob and Michelle Reiner, an anesthesiologist and mother found in a freezer at a Miami Dollar Tree of all places, and an update on Pastor John Paul Miller from the Micah Miller suicide situation. We will also be ending headline highlights with our Florida Man Google Roulette after we give some updates on several low-hanging fruit cases like the Epstein case and David. I'm Jackie,
I'm Jenna.
and we hope you had a wonderful weekend. I, for one, just got back from doing a third grade winter party where there was tons of glitter and glue. How about you, Jenna?
I think that sounds pretty fun, making ornaments. Yep, I'm happy to report that I finished all my Christmas wrapping over the weekend, right on track, so I can just coast into the holidays, and now I don't have to worry about wrapping a single present. Yes.
Good for you. I haven't
Yeah.
done any of that.
Yeah, so good luck. As always, we want to remind all of our listeners and viewers to subscribe, like, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and to please share with your family and friends who also love true crime. This will be our last headline highlights for the year, and then we will be back in the new year with lots of updates. So, Jackie, let's get into it.
All right. We are revisiting the Reiner double homicide that we briefly talked about in our last headline highlights, as it was freshly new, happened the day before we sat down to record. But we have some updates in that case. So if you're not familiar with the case, Nick Reiner, son and the alleged killer of parents Rob and Michael Reiner, appeared in court last Thursday on December 17th. As we mentioned last week, Nick fatally stabbed his father and mother, Michelle Reiner, in their home on Sunday, December 14th. Nick was arrested near the campus of the University of Southern California that same evening around 9:15 p.m. The Reiners were found deceased Sunday afternoon by their daughter, Romy. As we talked about last week, Nick had a substance abuse problem since the age of 15. We do know that he went to rehab 18 times. His parents loved him and tried so hard to help him get off of drugs. We know that rehab is very expensive for any family to do just one time, let alone 18 times. I believe, Jenna, they were saying that the facility he was recently in was costing $70,000 a month.
I'm not surprised, especially for out there in California. Yeah, times 18 times. I mean, they really were advocating to help him through this.
Absolutely. And this all happened before he even turned 22 years of age, mind you. So he had been struggling for at least 10 years prior to this crime. Leading up to the murders, Nick reportedly attended a Christmas party with his parents the evening before on Saturday, December 13th, at Conan O'Brien's house. It was here that Nick and Rob were seen and heard loudly arguing throughout the night. He also was reportedly behaving erratically and asking A-listers strange questions at Conan O'Brien's party, asking questions like, "What's your name? What's your last name? Are you famous?" One of the things he reportedly asked after Bill Hader at the holiday bash, according to the Wall Street Journal. Another source told TMZ that Nick stuck out like a sore thumb at the formal soiree because he was dressed in a hoodie. I would imagine, Jenna, everyone's dressed to the nines at this party.
Yeah, I also just want to add that I love Conan O'Brien. I think he's so funny. I watch all his shows, everything he does. Now I just feel sad he's involved in this because he's great.
Yeah. I'm sure they're all probably railing from this
Yes.
since they
Yeah.
just saw the Reiners the night before, and then they wake up the next day and find out that something so awful happened to him. It's almost like something you'd only see in like a mini series on HBO, right? Like it's
That's
just not something
big,
that happens in real life.
extravagant Christmas party. Like you said, everyone's probably dressed to the nines. They probably had fantastic food and decorations, and everybody was having a good time outside of this arguing that I'm sure was embarrassing to Rob and Michelle. I wonder why they included Nick to come to that.
I believe they were trying to keep an eye on him, actually. I think I
Wow.
had read that somewhere that they wanted to keep eyes on him because he was acting oddly.
Well, that lines up, yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of this party, Nick stormed out of the Christmas party after having a conversation with Bill Hader. Rob and Michelle were found dead in their master bedroom the following afternoon. The cause of death has been released as multiple sharp force injuries and the manner of death homicide. This past September, Rob Reiner did an interview with NPR for an upcoming film where he had nothing but positive things to say about Nick and mentioned he had been off drugs for several years. He said, quote, "He's been great. Hasn't been doing drugs for over 6 years," he said. He's in a really good place. Nick Reiner had his first court appearance on Thursday, the 17th. He hired well known criminal defense attorney Alan Jackson, most known for representing Karen Reed in both of her criminal trials, where he did a fantastic, phenomenal job getting her off. I
Yeah,
just hung on to every word Alan Jackson had to say because it was
we
just
lo
so.
love Alan Jackson.
Yeah.
We think he's very good at his job.
Yeah, so it seems from the way people are talking now that Alan Jackson's gonna go for not guilty by reason of insanity plea.
Mhm.
Because my first thought is, well, what is there to really do for Alan, right? I mean, it's pretty clear what happened here, but it seems there is more to the situation with Nick Reiner's medical history and psychiatric history. They are saying he was diagnosed with schizophrenia weeks prior to the murders and that there were some changes in his medications, which he had been taking that made him more, quote, erratic and dangerous. This is straight from TMZ and from whatever sources they're getting this from. I do believe that is plausible, Jenna. I don't know how you feel about this case, but I am of the camp that I can believe that either he was in a schizophrenic psychosis or this was some kind of drug crazed psychosis of some kind as
Yeah,
well.
I think it was along those lines. I listened to one of the neighbors of the Reiners, give an interview with Nancy Grace a few days ago. Um, she described Nick as being very odd and strange, and he was unable to speak very clearly.
Yeah.
They played some clips of older interviews with him, and he wasn't making any sense. He was talking very slow, very, like, drug out. It just definitely I agree with the meds being off and, the schizophrenia. I think he had multiple mental issues.
Yeah, I definitely do. I also read that he was not quite lucid even when he was brought in,
Yeah.
and he was in one of those, like, suicide aprons that they had Brian Koberger wear, that he just I think somebody even mentioned they don't even think he knows he killed his parents yet, and I even heard Dr. Drew say if he was on drugs or something when this happened and he says he doesn't remember, he's probably telling the truth. Because if it was meth, for instance, which can make people very violent, he may not remember what he
He
did.
may have blacked out. I mean, there is footage of him going to that gas station, though, and he checked into a hotel room. After the murders, he checked into a hotel room that he paid for probably with the credit card that his parents supplied him. So he had the wherewithal to do that. I think the
Right.
prosecution's going to argue that he was within his own mind to check into a hotel room all by himself and get in there. If he was blacking out or that mentally ill, would he have been able to do that?
Well, you raise a good point that Dr. Drew brought up. I was listening to him talk in an interview. He said that for an insanity plea, you would have to argue or you'd have to explain that that person did not know right or wrong in the moment that they committed the crime, which is probably going to be hard to define. I think. I mean, unless you have like text messages or recordings of him, like, how do you even define him knowing what right or wrong is in the moment?
I would question, why did you go to book yourself into a hotel room? Is it
So
because you
what
knew
you're
you
saying is you clearly know you need to shelter yourself,
I
right?
think he knew he did something wrong, and that's why he got out of the house and checked into a different place. If
Yeah.
he didn't remember killing them and didn't think he did anything wrong, why would he leave the home? He clearly fled because I believe he knew what he did.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that could be a good thing for the prosecution to argue that, well, he clearly knew what he was doing in the fact that he was trying to hide himself away. that in of itself says you did something
Yeah,
wrong.
and I read that in the hotel room, he hung up towels and things, blocking off all the windows so no one could see
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, I did hear that too. Yeah, you raise a good point. The question is, in the moment, though, I don't know.
Yeah,
What was he
well,
thinking, right?
yeah, we'll keep watching this and see how it unfolds.
Yep. All right, Jenna, what do we
Okay.
have for us?
So next up, this is coming out of Florida. And we have an anesthesiologist found in a freezer in a Dollar General in Miami, Florida. I don't know how it is in Florida, but up here in PA, we have Dollar Trees on every corner, it seems like.
I would hope the employees up here can monitor and prevent people from getting into the freezer.
Yeah,
And again, guys, this is not part of our Florida Man or Florida Woman segment, even
no.
though this headline could fit the bill.
Yes, this is a different occurrence in Florida. So, this breaking story comes to us from Miami, Florida. A female doctor was mysteriously found dead December 14th and nude inside a freezer at a Dollar Tree store in Miami, Florida. This is according to police and media reports. An employee at the discount store's Little Havana location reported discovering a quote, deceased woman inside the business during opening hours at 8 a.m. The Miami Police Department told Fox News Digital on Monday. The woman was identified as 32-year-old Helen Garay Sanchez. She had been in Florida since December 4th, visiting family. She's from Nicaragua. She also had two children who were not with her. They remained home in Nicaragua. The female was located inside a walk in freezer cooler located in the store's stockroom. Public Information Officer Michael Vega said. Authorities added that surveillance footage indicated she entered the Dollar Tree the evening of December 13th. No foul play was involved. The investigation remains ongoing. It also remains unclear why Sanchez entered the restricted stockroom area. Jackie and I were talking about this. She didn't work there. Didn't have a reason to be wandering around any restricted employee areas. So we're not sure what drew her to this walk-in
What
freezer.
in a like you're just walking down the street and you're like, I'm gonna go into the dollar store and I'm gonna go hide in the freezer.
I'm finding the bathroom in a store like that, let alone the walk-in freezer. Like,
Maybe she thought it was the bathroom. I don't know.
well, that's a theory.
Um,
According to GoFundMe page, Sanchez was an anesthesiologist specializing in congenital heart disease and was originally from Nicaragua, like we said. So she practiced medicine in Nicaragua.
yeah, she was just visiting family in Miami.
Yeah,
Not even from the area. They probably don't even have dollar stores in Nicaragua.
no. So her family and friends now are working to have her body returned to her home country. The GoFundMe said, quote, Dr. Helen Garay passed away following a tragic accident while abroad. Her family's greatest wish is to bring her back to Nicaragua for a proper funeral and a final resting place surrounded by her loved ones. The family is currently raising funds to cover the costs of repatriation,
There you go.
transportation, and funeral services in Nicaragua. Roughly $9,200 has been raised as of Monday evening, this is last week, to support the late doctor's family. And the Dollar Tree store remains closed during the investigation. It reopened later. Dollar Tree did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Fox News Digital. I'm sure they don't really know what to say. They have to get their legal team involved here. So, Jackie,
What are the closing procedures, right? Like, should they be checking the freezer?
right. I would think the people who closed that night are the first ones you're going to want to question.
Oh, they're gonna probably lose their $2 an hour job.
Yeah. And
You're not checking the freezer before you leave.
yeah. And like, just doing a final walk. I know in retail you're supposed to do a final walk around and make sure that no guests are still there or in a fitting
Up or
room
checking
or
the bathroom.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did some research on my own of these storage freezers, and because you're probably thinking, how could anyone get trapped in there in the first place?
Mhm.
First of all, how could they even get into it being like not an employee? I would think the employees had a key or something or a latch. I don't know, but it turns out that it's easier to get trapped in there than one may think because the safety latch can very quickly close and latch after walking into the unit. It can close behind you. So when you're an employee, you're trained to always tell someone, I'm going to the storage freezer. And then
Mhm.
if you don't come back, they're supposed to go check on you. Um, so basically the effects of the sub-zero cold can take effect in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. You're
And how
basically
cold is it in there?
I didn't. I feel like it was like look it up. I feel like it was well
It
below
it's
freezing.
anywhere below okay, it could be anywhere between 0 and -10 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. So 0 and -10 degrees.
Yeah, so I mean yeah, that's
So
not good.
also, I found out that OSHA does now require every cold storage room to have one door that opens, like one latch that opens from the inside. So I'm not sure if this Dollar Tree had one of those or if they did, if it was functional, but
Right.
there there is a law nowadays that there has to be a latch inside for you to get out. And cell phone signal doesn't really pick up inside one of those units
Mhm.
either.
Yeah.
So, like I said, employees of the Dollar Tree were most likely trained on all of these safety measures, but Helen was not an employee. So she wouldn't have known the
Knowing that,
proper
yeah.
training. She may have not even known what the latch from the inside even looked like, or if something was blocking it.
Or if we're I wonder if when she got in there were no lights on, like, who
Yeah.
knows?
So she could have walked in out of curiosity to get something. Did she think it was the bathroom? Was it foul play? They're saying it's not. She was found deceased. There was no stab wounds or anything on her body except that she was found nude, which
Which we found out there's a paradoxical response that people go through when they're freezing to death, that they actually feel hot and they take off all their clothes. So that could explain that.
that could have been after she was in there for a few minutes.
Yeah.
She started feeling that.
Wow.
It's just really tragic and bizarre circumstance.
Yeah,
So,
as we're talking, I'm like, I really think maybe she was looking for the bathroom. That's the most logical. I mean, unless her toxicology comes back, which that's going to take weeks or months to come back.
yeah,
That takes a long time. I mean, unless her toxicology comes back that there was like she was on something and maybe hallucinated. I think the most likely answer here was like maybe she was looking for the bathroom, went the wrong
yeah,
way, got in there, couldn't
yeah,
get out, and then they're closing and they
yeah,
they turn all the lights off.
and she wasn't from this country, so she doesn't know where the bathrooms are.
Right.
When I was in Canada, all the bathrooms at the restaurants and bars were in the basement. When you're in another country, you're not familiar with the setup of
Yeah.
that. She very may well thought it was a bathroom. Yeah, it's just so sad for her family, and
Yeah.
she had 2 young children, and she had a whole career as being a medical doctor, so this is
Yeah.
really
It's a terrible
unfortunate.
way to die and scary. I mean, oh my gosh, she was probably freaking out, like, "Get me
Yeah.
out of here," and then, like you said, her phone's not working.
Yeah, the claustrophobia alone, yeah, so we'll keep our eyes on that if the toxicology reports do come back and suggest that she had something in her system, we'll definitely keep our eyes on that for everyone. Now, Jackie has kind of an update from a story we have personally been following for some time.
I'm sure hoping our audience is aware of the strange case of Micah Miller. It's about a woman. She, at a young age, was groomed by this South Carolina pastor of hers. He, at the time when he met Micah, he was married himself with multiple children and throughout time groomed her. He wound up leaving his wife for Micah. They get married and then they start going through some problems. They become estranged. She calls 911 one day to say, I am about to kill myself and this is where you're going to find me. And they did. They found her deceased it was a park.
Yeah, it was like a hiking. path.
I found her deceased with what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. They do have surveillance footage of her going into a gun store and buying said gun. So at first when Jenna would text me about it, I'm like, I don't know, like what is there to talk about with this one? Because pretty clear she kind of killed herself. But I know, but it appears that
It's not.
this case gives people pause because it kind of reminds us of a different case. Do you guys remember the case where the girl, Michelle Carter, she was found guilty in 2017 of involuntary manslaughter for encouraging her boyfriend, Conrad Roy III, to kill himself through hundreds of text messages and phone calls? So this kind of raises the question, did he incite her to kill herself through mental anguish, abuse, what have you? And for a while, there was nothing that anyone could really find on this guy. However, recently, Pastor John Paul Miller, her estranged husband, he is now facing federal charges for allegedly cyber stalking his estranged wife, Micah, in the months leading up to her death by suicide. He was indicted by a federal grand jury in December on charges of cyber stalking and making false statements to federal investigators, according to a press release from the DOJ. The indictment alleges that John Paul harassed his estranged wife, Micah Miller, from November 2022 until her death on April 27th, 2024. According to the indictment, John Paul posted a nude photo of Micah online without her consent, tracking devices on her vehicle, and on one occasion contacted her more than 50 times in a single day. He also allegedly interfered with her finances and daily activities and damaged her vehicle tires, the press release states. The indictment also alleges that John Paul lied to federal investigators about his actions, claiming he hired a private investigator to protect Micah from purchasing firearms, but in reality, he hired the investigator to cyberstalk her for alleged adultery. John Paul also denied damaging Micah's tires, but investigators say he purchased a tire deflation device online and sent messages to others about her vehicle. So, like I said, Micah, age 30, when she passed away from a self inflicted gunshot wound, it was at Lumber River State Park in North Carolina. Her death sparked widespread attention on social media, with many questioning the circumstances surrounding her suicide and her relationship with her estranged husband. John Paul Miller served as pastor of Solid Rock at Market Common Church in Myrtle Beach. In the days following Micah's death, he announced her passing to his congregation, stating she had struggled with mental health issues. He now faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison for cyber stalking and 2 years in prison for making false statements. He also faces a fine up to $250,000, and his arraignment is scheduled for January 12th of next year in Florence, South Carolina. Previously to this, interestingly enough, Jenna, John Paul was arrested in November 2024 for assault and battery for an incident involving a demonstrator outside the church, days after federal agents raided his home. Additionally, 2 other lawsuits were filed in March of this year that accuse him of sexually assaulting underage girls. And Micah's family settled a wrongful death lawsuit with him in August 2024. But the details of that settlement have not been revealed. So, wow, there's a lot there, Jenna. I proved to be wrong that there wasn't much here, but it seemed like Micah's death triggered a domino effect. Would you say, Jenna?
He's a piece of shit. I'm sorry, but like he, you know, here this reminds me of like one of those novels that you read where the husband is just tormenting the wife and the wife is crying out for help and
No one
he
believes
just
her.
tells everyone she's crazy. Don't listen to her. She's insane. She's crazy. And the whole like story goes on and she's just trying to get help. But
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
this is what this man was doing to Micah for years. It's horrible. And it ended with her taking her own life because of him, because of his harassment. And not only to her, now we see he's getting in assaults with other people and doing things with underage girls. Gross.
Yeah. And I mean, there's just how the relationship transpired with him and Micah. Obviously, he's targeting young females.
Yes, that's definitely because he was grooming Micah too. And did we forget to mention he's a pastor? Like,
No, we
hello?
mentioned that multiple times. He is out there doing God's work, ruining young girls' lives,
Well,
inciting
he
them to
can
kill themselves, and
I hope he enjoys doing that from prison because that's where he's headed.
going back to that, to Michelle Carter, you know, she was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter
Yeah. That
for
was a
urging
big
him to kill himself. So now we're kind of like in this territory. Like, do they have enough to prove that he is the reason she killed herself? I mean, that Michelle Carter case set the precedent for
Yes.
people to now be held liable for someone's
That was the
suicide.
first of its kind that was ever ruled.
Right. So the
I
question is, are they kind of
honestly
going down the same path here?
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that this is how they got him. You know how sometimes they have to get you on something just to get you in? I think they got him on the, cyber stalking, and now they're gonna go for the involuntary.
And these are federal charges. It's not even like South Carolina state police or a local
Mhm.
authorities taking him. This is like federal. And I wonder if now this is going to open up the doors for them to dig further into his phone, into his records to
Mhm.
see. I mean, I'm sure they already looked at that stuff about around her suicide,
Yeah.
but I wonder if they're going to find more because I know a lot of people think no, he actually was there and pulled the trigger and maybe forced her to make that phone call
I
saying,
mean,
"Hey, I have to
I
tell my
have
sisters where to
thought
find
that.
me."
Yes.
Yeah.
I have thought that, and he could just say that she committed suicide. I thought that from the get-go, and then they just kind of never did anything with this, so they must have been working behind the scenes, and I think more will come out.
Eventually, I mean, clearly a lot of people are onto him and what he is about. So we will
Mhm.
keep you guys posted if we hear anything else. But
Yeah.
that was a good update, Jenna.
Yeah, that was. And then before we get into our Florida Man Roulette, we do have a couple quick breaking updates. There was a lot going on since our last headline highlights last Monday. Just so many things have been happening. We just want to make sure we're updating you on some of the main ones. So the first thing was on Wednesday, December 17th. There was a burn cage found on former residence of singer D4VD. We refer to him as David from our other headline highlights.
Mhm.
Private investigator hired by the owner of the former home rented by David discovered an unused burn cage incinerator inside the residence shortly after Celeste Rivez Hernandez's body was found in the trunk of David's Tesla. Researched that these metal incinerators can reach temps of 1600 degrees. Private investigator Steve Fisher said of the incinerator, quote, this is something you would expect to find on a farm rather than a home in the Hollywood Hills. So we can only speculate what this may have been purchased for. It was unused and found after her body was found in the trunk. I'm just saying, Jackie, it seems like they may have been preparing to get rid of that body.
Or somebody jumped the gun and put her in the trunk before that came in the mail. I don't know. I mean,
True.
I would say that's something you'd expect to find in a crematorium, not
Yeah.
in a
And
home.
it was unused, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's either somebody's like, there was a miscommunication after she was killed, and
I
someone
think
put her in the trunk?
that's really what happened. I think it was a miscommunication
Yeah.
on how to get rid of this body. I
So
really
then the
do.
person bought the incinerator, and they're like, "I just bought this freaking incinerator, now you're not even using it." And then they still left it there is the weird part. If you didn't use it, why wouldn't you wanna get it the hell out of the property?
I guess the other thing that they're gonna say is, "Oh, we just wanted to burn our trash."
Yeah, some fall
Something
foliage.
lame.
Yeah.
I mean, what other reason would you need that for? Do you have animals you wanna burn? I
I
don't know.
didn't even know you could, like, purchase I guess you can buy anything
I mean,
nowadays. I was like, "Wow, yeah, that seems like something for a farm or, like, a crematorium, like, not a home residence."
what would David need that for? Unless he's some kinda, like, devil worshiper and just, like, burns
Well,
animals, I don't
he
know.
did he did blow up pretty quickly on TikTok and, his record labels. But, yeah, I mean, I
He
wouldn't be
sold
surprised.
himself to the devil.
That's how you get famous. Hey,
Probably.
next up, um Thursday, December 18th, Brian Walshy, we covered the story last Monday. He was accused of killing his wife, Anna. He was sentenced, found him guilty right as we were doing headline highlights last
Yeah,
week. And now the sentencing was this past Thursday. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
they
So
couldn't
that
give him the death penalty for that. I mean,
think I don't think he got the death penalty.
did you see his face when they were reading off everything? He's just like nodding, like,
Mhm.
uh-huh, okay. Yeah, no, I agree. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like
He's a monster.
he's demented. Like
Yeah,
that man is a psychopath,
he's
straight
a
up.
he's a definition of demented. He really is. So enjoy your life in prison, Brian.
Yeah.
And our next breaking update was also back on last Thursday, December 18th. Your Vandersloot, I don't know if you remember him, Jackie. He was
Yes.
involved in the Natalie Holloway disappearance.
Yes.
Which we've followed closely when that happened. Maybe we will do a episode on Natalie Holloway.
Well, we should.
Oh, he attempted to unalive himself in the Peruvian prison he has been serving time in for the killing of Stephanie Flores Ramirez in 2010. Like we said, he was most notably involved in the disappearance of American teenager Natalie Holloway in 2005 in Aruba. It said that reported that he used bed sheets to hang himself, but as of last Thursday, it was reported the attempt was like unsuccessful. And
A
so,
serial killer failed to kill his own self.
yeah, and I don't know what has happened to him since. Assume he was in the hospital, but we'll definitely be keeping our eye on that story for any updates. But I wasn't really surprised to read that, but yeah. So
Well,
that's all the updates.
we got one more though.
Oh,
Epstein. Can't
oh,
forget about Epstein.
oh yeah, can't forget about him.
The documents are slowly coming out. So there was a big drop on a Friday night last week. Personally, guys, it feels like a big nothing burger. It seems like there's multiple redacted pages. I know my sister has been really diving deep into the Epstein file. She was sending me screenshots of like full pages
Mhm.
that had like, 2 words and then the rest was all redacted.
Yeah.
A lot of the photos are faces blurred out because they're minors, but really, I don't feel like anything new has been gleaned, Jenna, from this drop unless more's coming. I guess the biggest thing is like, Michael Jackson's in some of these photos and
Mhm.
Bill Clinton is in a lot of them. And again, I want to remind people just because someone's in a photo with Epstein does not mean they engaged in illegal activity. But there are photos of Epstein with young children. So that in of itself is
Yeah.
incriminating.
You know what? I wish they would blur his face out. I'm tired of seeing his face all the time. I wish they would just blur his face out.
The decor, they had weird photos of people.
Mhm.
There's like it's almost like an African American woman hanging from the rafters.
It's bizarre.
And then he wrote Lolita quotes all over the girls' bodies
Oh,
too. I mean, this guy was just gross on
what a
so many
freak.
levels. I mean,
Ew.
it is concerning to me that Bill Clinton hung out with him and Ghislaine so much, though. But I'm also concerned about why we haven't seen any pictures of Donald Trump, knowing they do exist.
Well, maybe they were redacted. And then what else was redacted?
Right.
And how many times are they gonna tell us it's coming out and then be like, "Well, 90% is redacted, so
Oh,
sorry."
we're just protecting people that
Yeah.
are which totally plausible. There's minors involved. I know they said there might be some active investigations into some of these people that are named. So I guess they don't want to show their hand. I get that, but like at the same time, like this doesn't feel right to me. So we'll see if
It's
anything
just
else comes
yeah.
out. But
Every time they say more pictures are coming out, they just do the same thing, so we'll keep our eye on it, though.
I don't think we're ever gonna have an answer. But you know what, Jenna? And for those listening, I am listening to Virginia Guffrey's memoir
Yeah.
on audio, and somebody brought up a really good point. Let me just look up the name of her co-author because there was somebody that helped her write this. And this woman made sure it was released after Virginia died
Oh,
by suicide, or so we think, right?
right.
her collaborator, I'm just trying to find her name, but what people were saying was the woman she wrote this book with knows the list, and we need to protect her at all costs because her co-author knows the names that were redacted in Virginia's book too.
Yeah,
Think
you
about it.
probably shouldn't go around telling people that you know that.
Yeah, right? She would know. Actually, I'm not even going to say her name because I don't want it out there. Her name's somewhere. But my point is the co-author knows who these people are that Virginia's talking about, right?
She knows.
So,
That's a girl who knows.
yeah, I haven't gotten to the part yet where Virginia meets Epstein, but I did hear in some reports that there was a foreign prime minister that was so violent with Virginia that she went to Epstein and was like, I cannot meet with this guy anymore. And they still made her, obviously, but she was like, he's violent. Like he's awful. I can't wait to get to those parts to see if maybe there's some hints. Like
Yeah.
you can kind of figure out who it could be. We just know it's a prime minister, but it's pretty vague what country, right?
Right.
But that's pretty interesting.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what we have. I think honestly, guys, I think you're probably going to learn more going into Virginia's book, to be honest with you, than
Yeah.
you will from these Epstein files.
Yeah. You have to tell us when you finish the book.
Yeah, well, we could even do a deep dive on that and
True?
just kind of
Yeah.
talk about her memoir. All right, Jenna, it's that time.
Yay! Florida man time.
Cue the music. All right, let's see.
Should we do woman today? Because we did man last time.
Yes,
I think
let's
so.
do that. All right, let's see.
And I think that I'm thinking for the holidays, I'm going to pick a holiday date. And I think for today, I'm going to pick December 24th.
All right, Christmas Eve.
Yep.
What happened on Christmas Eve? Let's see. Here we go. December 24th, 2017. Here we go. A Florida woman was arrested Thursday after her partner allegedly walked into a butcher knife.
Then
Just happens. You know, he just walked into it. You know, I wonder if that's what happened with Ellen Greenberg. She just walked backwards.
Yeah.
A few times
backed
into her butcher
the
knife,
knife
right?
20 times back. She just kept backing into it. Yeah.
She just kept backing into it and then, fell on a knife like what's his face said.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. West Palm Beach, Florida. A Florida woman was arrested on Thursday after her partner allegedly walked into a butcher knife that she was holding. Shirley Ann Duval, age 30, was arrested with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon in the incident and remains Saturday at Palm Beach County Jail on $5,000 bond. Only $5,000? When police arrived around 3 p.m. in response to a report of an attempted suicide, this is really like Ellen Greenberg, they found a trail of blood and a smashed cell phone by the front door. There were also large amounts of blood in the kitchen, the living room, and the patio, as well as 2 smashed flat screen TVs and items strewn around the home.
Sounds like a fight.
Okay. Fire rescue officials were already at the scene aiding a man who was on the living room floor screaming in pain. Delval told officers she and the man had argued that she walked away into the kitchen to start cooking. She said that when she took out a butcher knife from the drawer, she turned around and he just happened to walk into it. Fire rescue officials were already at the scene aiding a man who was on the living room floor and screaming in pain, according to the arrest report. Delval told officers she and the man had argued, then she walked away into the kitchen to start cooking. She said that's when she took a butcher knife from the drawer, she turned around and he, quote, happened to walk into it, stabbing himself in the stomach. She said he then walked into the living room and collapsed on the floor. Delval then called 911. The police do say that Delval has had an extensive criminal history for domestic battery. So this is the female having an extensive criminal history for domestic violence. Officers later spoke with the man at the hospital who said he did try to stab himself and that Delval had nothing to do with it.
Because he's probably afraid of her.
That's what I was thinking.
He's probably afraid. It's beaten man syndrome. This happens. And people don't want to talk about it. He probably was like, oh my God, if I say she tried to kill me when we get home, she's gonna kill me.
I think that's why they did take her in anyway, because they probably figured, well, he's just probably covering for her anyway. There's just no way you'd do that on purpose unless you were trying to frame her for it. But with her extensive history, seems like they
Yeah.
knew he was lying. So that is our Florida woman story for Christmas Eve.
Eve.
That sounded like a really horrible Christmas Eve for them. Since it was
Yeah.
2017, I hope they're doing well today. I hope they're not together anymore and have moved on.
Yeah, that sounds like a very, very bloody Christmas Eve.
Very much so. Well, guys, as we wrap up here, we have a deep dive part 2 of the Lacey
Yes.
Peterson case coming out this Friday. If you did not listen to part 1 is where we kind of talk about the background history, but part 2 is really where we dive in deep with the LA Innocence Project and read directly from Scott's 60-page declaration, which is going to be the closest thing you have to him testifying on the stand, to give you a little more background on what was going on in their lives and the neighborhood at the time. You will learn something new, I promise you, from what we discovered. And please keep an open mind. We are trying to be fair here. But yeah, that's it for us for 2025. Anything you want to say, Jenna, as we close out for this year?
Yeah, just want to wish all of our listeners and viewers very happy holidays, and that we cannot wait to see you when we get back in the new year. We do have that special bonus episode dropping the week between Christmas and New Year's. So stay tuned for that too. And then we'll be back to our regular schedule on January 5th.
All right. Have a great holiday, everyone. And thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you.
Bye.